Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the D.D. Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the D.D. Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief. I am T.J. Jackson, and with me is my eldest brother, Taj Jackson.
What's going on, T?
How are you, Taj?
Doing great.
Doing great. All is well in my world as well. Today's date is April 27th, 2022. It's a Wednesday, of course. We do these shows every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You may be listening to us on a podcast, or you may be watching us live right now on Facebook and YouTube. Yes, we do this stream live every Wednesday on Facebook and YouTube. So if you haven't consumed us that way, why are you looking at me like, what did I mess up?
No, I'm fixing my angle.
Oh, so your squinting was because your eyesight?
Yeah, I'm fixing it.
Okay.
My angle, yeah.
But yes, we are on Facebook and YouTube Live. You can also, of course, watch us on the rewatch. But the one thing we would suggest to anyone out there is to make sure you subscribe or follow us on Facebook. And if you are on YouTube, subscribe and hit the bell so you are notified every time we go live. Let me say this, Taj, because we do have a disclaimer to say that I think every single show we've done, we've mentioned the disclaimer, we've read the disclaimer, we said the disclaimer, and I don't want to make today the day we forget to do that. So here's the disclaimer, you guys. We are not licensed therapists. We are just ordinary people who've experienced loss in our lives. We've been impacted by it, and we have learned from it. And we like to share our opinions in an attempt to help you get through whatever it is you are going through. Saying that if you need professional help, we urge you to seek it and to find it. Please do not just rely on us. That was our disclaimer. Taj, we have a wonderful show with a special guest who is no stranger to the Power of Love show. But before we get there, Taj, I'd love to know how your week was.
Honestly, you know, even know, TJ, to be honest. Did I mention about everything's merging together. I think the thing that is the most important about this week coming up is I've been preparing for our big show.
Yeah.
So that's really why everything's kind of tied together in that way in terms of, obviously in general. So that has kind of taken up a lot of my time in a good way, but also excited about it too.
Yeah. So we are, for those who don't know, we, as in Taj, myself, and our middle brother, Terrell, we make up 3T, who's the picture behind Taj to his, I knew you'd fall for it, Taj. There you go, that side. We are doing a show. Taj, has it been like 5 years since our show?
It's been a while.
It's been a while, right? So we are doing a show. It's obviously been pre-COVID.
I would say 5 years, almost.
It's been about 5 years, and we're doing our first show. It's a festival show. It's a 90s festival show, so it's going to be a lot of fun. It is in Strasbourg, France, which is near, I believe, Switzerland. But it's going to be a fun, exciting time that we're all very much looking forward to performing and seeing some of our fans. So Lena wants to know, are you guys nervous for your first show again? I think nerves after a long break is always, it's always part of the equation. But truthfully, at least for me, I'm actually more excited than nervous, which is a cool thing. I feel like I've gotten to an age where I can enjoy the process more than be so critical of what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing because you enter a way of being more fulfilled and like I said, enjoying it more. So yes, I'm excited and more than nervous.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. And
would you agree, Taj?
What?
About being more excited than nervous?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just all the traveling aspect of it, like, because we're still with the pandemic stuff and all that. That's more of what kept me busy during the week than the performance aspect. I'm super excited about performing in that way. Can't wait to see everyone too, the fans and stuff. So it's be great.
Taj, we have we have some cool comments. I want to give a shout out to this person. Taj, can you
Yeah.
see?
Yes.
What does that say?
It's our cousin Heather, and it says, "You are amazing people. Hi, fam."
Hey, so we want to give a shout out to our cousin on our mom's side. Hey,
Yeah.
Heather, we miss you. We love you. And it's wonderful to see your big smile on the avatar. So keep that picture.
Yes,
But
definitely.
yes, hopefully we'll see you soon, Heather. And I just wanted to highlight it.
Yeah.
All right. So, Taj, are we good? Can we jump into our show? Because this is an important show with an important guest. Are
Let's
we
do
ready?
it. Do
Okay,
it.
cool. So on today's episode of the Power of Love show, we welcome back a dear, dear friend of DDJF, Amelia Green. You may remember Amelia from her previous appearances on the show where she discussed Understanding Autism in October of 2020. And then she came back a year later to discuss navigating the loss of a child,
Mm.
which was in that show was in October of 2021 for any of you who want to rewatch those episodes. Anyways, today Amelia is here to discuss Autism Acceptance Month, as well as cultivating traditions after loss. Amelia has held many titles in her life, the most important one being mother. When Amelia became a mother at 25, she found her life's mission in her little miracle. At a very early age, Amelia recognized that her son Alex was not developing typically and asked numerous professionals for help. Finally, after tireless advocacy, Alex was diagnosed with severe nonverbal autism at 16 months old. The next few years brought endless growth and learning to support Alex and inspired Amelia to get her associate's, undergraduate, and finally a master's degree in autism and applied behavior analysis. Analysis. How do you say that word, Taj? Analysis. There we go. I'm making it all difficult. During these years, Amelia also welcomed two more, not just one, but two more beautiful sons who provided more inspiration and love. Another development during this period was the diagnosis of epilepsy for Alex. As the years passed, the love grew, as did the challenges Alex faced every single day. By 9, his diagnosis had been changed to refractory medication, resistant epilepsy, and he was seizing almost every day. Amelia began to focus on improving the everyday quality of life, not just for Alex, but also for the rest of her family. They found friends who became family, a beautiful home to make their own, and happy memories in their community and around the country. After years of fighting to keep him here, Alex was lost to a seizure during the night on March 7th, 2021, 2 weeks before his 14th birthday. The devastation of his loss has been felt far and wide as Alex and his pure joy were so memorable, he touched endless lives. Mostly, he touched and changed Amelia's life for the better. In the year that has followed since losing Alex, Amelia has woken up every day intent on one mission to find Alex level joy in each day for Alex's brothers, Cameron and Bradley, and of course for herself. It is through perpetuating joy and love and fighting for quality of life for people with disabilities that Amelia keeps Alex and his legacy alive. Alex showed the world that love needs no words, and Amelia hopes to continue to teach his message and further his impact on the world by telling his story. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome to the Power of Love show, Amelia Green. Amelia, we need like a clap track, Taj. I feel like, or like a
I'll be in charge of that if you suggest that. That's the problem. We need means Taj to find us. Yeah.
some type of a
Yeah.
sound audible thing.
There is something. I will. I'm gonna.
Amelia, first of all, it's wonderful to see you again. You are no strangers to the Power of Love show. You've been on twice, as I just announced to everyone before introducing or before you came on. I first want to say thank you for being you. Thank you for joining us.
Mhm.
I can only imagine the difficulty it is in doing so. But you are always here for us and our community to help them get through what they're going through and to help them understand what not only about autism and the effects it can have, but also how to get through certain situations, and how to go on with your life and your day. And you are a living example of that. So on behalf of my brother Taj and our whole foundation, thank you so much
Yes.
for being with us.
Thank you for
um,
having me again.
Now, saying that, during the first appearance, again, which was in 2020, of October of 2020, you discussed understanding autism. So, if you're okay with this, let's kick off by discussing your personal connection to autism and what Autism Acceptance Month means to you.
So, I remember coming on here in October of 2020 and saying, we have to talk about autism acceptance, and people going, I thought we were talking about awareness. And I am so excited that here we are a year and a half later, and I'm actually seeing this, that it's Autism Acceptance Month, not awareness. It's like the world is catching up to what some of us already knew, right? That awareness just isn't enough. We've got to move past knowing these people are here and move into accepting them for who they are. People with autism have changed my life. You know, it started with my boy, but when I look back, there were people with autism that were part of my life before I even knew what autism was. Autism is one of those things, you know, it doesn't come with a name tag. You know, you don't see somebody and they go, hi, you know, I'm Amelia and I'm autistic. So it was later on in life that I realized so many people with autism had already impacted my life. You know, when you think about it, they've impacted all of our lives. Look at all of the people today that are now proudly saying that they have autism and the contributions that they've given to our society. So I think one of the greatest things that people with autism have given me is this idea that there's always hope for better and more. You know, in the last year, we have seen so much growth for a large community who were just overlooked for so long. We have got to move past being aware. Imagine if we were just aware of things like cancer or diabetes or, you know, other serious diseases that impact people's lives every day. Autism is so similar. It impacts life in so many ways. Being aware of that is one thing, but accepting that and finding how to find the best quality of life for everybody is a whole other thing.
So here's my question, and I think I know this answer, but I'd love to hear it from you in your voice. Um, I know April is Autism Acceptance Month. Am I right in assuming it used to be Autism Awareness Month?
Mm-hmm.
And when did this designation and change happen?
You know, I don't know if there was like a set date. I don't think there was like an announcement like, hey, we as a society have moved on.
Yeah.
We are aware, we're ready to accept. I think it's something that's just kind of come as we've woken up as a society to, you know, people don't have to fit in our box. It doesn't always have to be black and white. You know, people can live in that gray area and we can be okay with that. You know, people don't have to do things the way that we find the right way. So I think it's been a real societal shift over the last few years. And I think it's really been pushed by people with autism speaking up for themselves.
Yeah.
There are so many people now. I mean, in the last 2 years, the number of social media presence and blogs and coming from people who live with autism, not parents, not doctors, not therapists, you know, people that are living full lives with autism. There are so many blogs right now of parents with autism talking about raising children with autism. These were things we never even thought about before. And for me to have a chance to understand what a day looks like for that person pushes me further. Even if I am accepting of it, it gives me more to be more accepting and to further my knowledge and understanding.
Why, and in a quick answer, because this is just a spur of the moment TJ question. And again, this is the one I think is pretty self-explanatory, but I'd love to hear it from you. Why was it so important to switch from Autism Awareness Month to Autism Acceptance Month?
Because being aware isn't enough. It's just not enough. We can be aware, but that doesn't mean that we're making the changes that need to happen. You know, my Alex, we used to talk about Autism Awareness Day was every day in our house, right? Because he just spread his autism everywhere. He didn't care if you looked at him funny, what you said. He was going to live his best Alex life in that moment, right? So we just lived that way. That was just it. Autism all the time out there in the world. But that's different for other people. Other people feel like they have to hide that or, do it in other ways. Everybody could be aware of my son in the grocery store, but that doesn't mean that they were accepting. There's a fine line there. Awareness is seeing that person. Acceptance is stepping in and saying, hey, can I help? Or even just saying hello to somebody. I can't tell you how many times we'd be in line in a grocery store and everybody would be like moving away, moving to the next line, moving away. Everybody's moving away. When in that moment, we needed those people to move forward to say, hey, it's okay if you take an extra 2 minutes. It's okay if he's noisy. He's a kid, number one. Number two, he's a human being having human emotions. But that's the line. That's the line, I think, between awareness and acceptance. Awareness is I see it. Acceptance is I see it and I want it to be part of my world too.
I think, so go ahead, Taj, you have a question?
It's just beautifully well put in that way. So
yeah. I have so many questions, I'm sorry if these are repeat questions from a year ago. I don't have the best memory, but even if it is, some of these answers need to be solidified in our membranes anyway. What can we, those who may not know much about autism, because it's not close to us, it's not in our family, what can we do to help someone like you in a simple, or someone who has to deal with the pressures of autism in our world? What can we do to help you not feel either different or make it easier for you? Is there anything that off the top of the bat you would say for your average person that can be done to help people who are dealing with autism?
I think it's to listen. And I think it's to listen, not to respond. So often we're listening to give advice or, to interject our opinion somewhere. I think, autism is different for everybody. That's why it's a spectrum. It's not one thing. It's not a one case fits all. It's like snowflakes. Everyone is unique and beautiful in its own special way. So I think it's hard to answer that generically because everybody's path is so different. And not even that, if you asked me how you could help me when Alex was first diagnosed, I would have told you, I couldn't even tell you what I would have told you at this point anymore. But if you asked me 4 years later, it would have been different. If you asked me 4 days later, it may have been different. So I think it's really about taking the time to listen and listening to what's not being said to, right? So that friend that you have whose child just got diagnosed that you haven't seen at the playground or isn't coming to the family functions anymore. It's taking that moment to send that text message of like, really hoping to see you at the next play date, or pulling that person aside at the family function and being like, how are you? Like, really, how are you? It's really about listening and taking the time.
Yeah, it's so great. Angie has a beautiful comment. Diversity is what makes our world so great. Love that, Angie.
Love it.
Okay, so another question for you is on your second appearance of the Power of Love show, we discussed navigating the loss of a child, and you recently crossed that 1-year threshold since the loss of your beloved, beautiful son, Alex. What did that 1-year mark look and feel like for you, Amelia, personally?
It was not pretty. So I'm not going to lie. The holidays were really rough. I was not fully prepared for all of the emotions that came with that holiday season. So I was really purposeful. I was really purposeful in planning for that day. I actually booked us a vacation, me and my 2 sons. We took a wild and crazy trip to Florida. We slept on a rehabbed boat for 2 days with no electricity, and we had an adventure. And on the morning we lost Alex, we went to the beach at sunrise and we put some of his ashes in the ocean. And in that moment, we decided that's something we're going to do every year. Every year. That day is never going to be about sorrow. That day is always going to be about adventure and joy for us. And, with Alex's barriers, it wasn't easy to take him all these places. Alex couldn't have done 2 days in the boat. He probably couldn't have done 5 minutes on a boat. So it's taking this time and not realizing, making our loss into something we've gained. We've gained the chance to have these new experiences, but we've also gained the chance to bring Alex with us in a safe way. So we brought him with us, and we left him in the Atlantic Ocean, and we're going to leave him in another ocean next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. And the ocean was Alex's happiest place. There is nowhere else, I could ever imagine him being more Alex level joy. So that was what we did. And I scheduled my grief, that day was for me and my sons. And I literally scheduled the next day at 6 p.m. Somebody took my children and I fell apart, because that was what I needed to do. I knew I needed that time too. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And the signs I got from my boy that was the right thing just showed me, that it's about celebration. It's not about grief.
I was going to ask, what do you think you learned about yourself and about life and about grief? But I guess you just answered that, right? It's about celebrating life, and yeah. So unless there's something else you want to add to that.
I think it's every day. It's every day. I think that's something that Trip taught me too. It doesn't have to be this big expensive trip. It doesn't have to be, this big moment. We think of the funeral as the big goodbye. When I look back on it that day, that was nowhere near my goodbye. That was not it. And that doesn't have to be it. That's up to us. That's up to us. And I think it also made me, I am more conscientious about bringing Alex into every single day that I have. There has not been a day since March 7th that I have not talked about my son like he was in the next room. And that was really hard to do before that, because it felt like he was gone. And then came this day where it was like, he's only gone if we say so. We can keep him here.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. I want to ask you a couple of, for lack of a better term, generic autism questions, if that's okay. And the first question I want to, because I'm looking in the community and I'm seeing there's a lot of people who are so happy you are here. I'm going through this mental thing. Do we highlight some of these comments during? Do we wait till the end and then show them? But I'm going to show a couple. Karen says, my grandson has autism as well. He is 6 years old. It's very hard. Julie with the super chat says, thank you for what you're doing. My granddaughter has autism and music helps her. And then there's another comment that I thank you, by the way, Julie, for the super chat. Another comment is from CK, who says, another autistic fan here. Have always been too shy to comment, but wanted to thank you for covering this issue. So a lot of love and appreciation for you being here and speaking with us, Amelia. My question is this. For someone who, I'll just say a parent, because I guess that's who we could talk to at the moment. For a parent out there who has just learned of their child being diagnosed with autism, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them? What would you tell them? What would you say to them?
It's going to be okay. It's really going to be okay. It's not going to be what you pictured, but it's going to be a new version of okay. And whatever it is you're feeling, whatever it is you're thinking, that's okay too. It's the idea of, there is so much grief that comes with that diagnosis. We talk so much on this show about grief. And grief isn't just when you lose somebody. It's not just physically losing somebody. It's grieving for all those lost dreams, all those lost hopes, all those lost aspirations for that child. They may not be gone completely, but they look really different. And that's really scary. And that's okay. You don't have to put this big smile on. It's okay to feel all of those things and to have those concerns. And it's really okay to ask for help. When Alex was diagnosed 15 years ago, there weren't all these resources that we have today. There weren't there weren't people accessible in the way that they are today. Even anybody who's watching this, if I can help you in any way, if your child was just diagnosed, find me. It is okay. You know, that's the wonderful part of this world that we're living in today, is that there is support out there. So ask for help. Ask for somebody, you know, validate your feelings with somebody who understands what you're going through. That's the beautiful part of the world today. And don't ever lay any blame on yourself. That is gonna be so detrimental to this whole journey. You have no fault in any of this. What you have is an opportunity to build the most beautiful future for that unique child. It's not going to look the same, but there is still so much beauty.
Beautiful. And now, Amelia, I think so highly of you. So I'm going to ask you another question, similar question, but addressed to someone else. For that youngster, teenager, early 20s, or even late single digits who has autism, what would you tell them?
Tell your story. Tell your story. Please tell your story. I want to hear it. So many people want to hear it. Let your peers hear it. Let the whole world hear it. I think that's the change that's happened in the last few years, is that people with autism are now finding their voice. And I think that's the beauty in all of this. I want to know, you know, I want my children to know what your experience is like. I want my children to be better people than I am in helping people with disabilities. This is a chance for all of us to learn from you. And I believe, you know, we all talk about children have the ability to change the world. That is one huge way for one person to make a difference. For me to say it is one thing. You know, I could talk about diabetes from my perspective as a diabetic. I can't talk about being autistic. I can talk about being the mom of a child with autism, but I can't tell you what it's like to be autistic. So if somebody has that chance, listen. Please listen. Let me know what they say. Let somebody else know what they say. That's how acceptance spreads. That's how it goes beyond awareness.
That's so wonderful. You're getting so much love. I have to highlight it. Michael Jackson fan says, preach. Angie says, beautiful. Amelia is so sweet, beautiful spirit. And she also says, that's a great answer. Positivity is very important. I think you're a special person, Amelia. And, you know, this is your third time. And like I said, it can't be easy. You know, we've seen you go through a lot in life, and you always are here helping, as MJ Fan just said, preaching and helping us understand things. I want to ask you, Taj looks like he has a question, but I'm going to sneak one more in. I want to ask you, and I apologize for anyone who's watched our previous episodes on autism just now, but I want to know from you, Amelia, and I think I've asked you this before. What is the biggest misconception the world has on autism?
That it is one thing, that everybody with autism is the same way. You know, that it's that person you saw on TV, or it's that guy in the movie. You know, I'm old, so when I was young, it was Rain Man. Everybody who had autism, you know, was going to count matchsticks and do all of that kind of stuff. It is a beautiful spectrum. It is more than just a spectrum. It is a rainbow of the most beautiful people in the whole world. So don't make any assumptions at all, because you are going to miss the beauty.
Wonderful. Taj, did you have a question for Amelia?
That was kind of
really?
Yeah, I read on the comment someone saying, like, what's the misconception that we see on TV about autism?
Yeah.
It's not what's on TV. What do you think? I know that you mentioned in terms of reaching out and talking to people, and, you know, either parents or people with autism, but what do you think is, what else can we do in that way, the general public, in an ideal world, to speed up this process of acceptance?
You know, there's so much progress, which is so amazing. You know, we look at all of airports now have sensory friendly rooms, right? We have events where the lights aren't so loud. We have all of these things. I think it's about, how do we personally make our worlds accessible for everybody, right? So being conscious of, when you take your children to the playground, there's a huge opportunity. That's where inclusion starts. Inclusion starts on a playground, right? So it's those little things of bringing your children to a playground or a grocery store and pointing out that child, who's doing things a little bit differently. Maybe that one child who's playing by themselves and everybody else is in a group, and going, hey, let's go say hi to that kid. That kid looks fun, right? Instead of that, hey, look at that kid. He's a little different. Let's look out for him. We got to change that narrative. And the way we do it is really by instilling it in our children, so that the next generation, we don't have to talk about awareness versus acceptance, because they're going to come up accepting of everybody's differences. And what a beautiful world that will be. I can't wait in 20 years when my sons are doing the show with your sons, talking about just autism, no acceptance, no awareness, just autism as an everyday event. Because it is, and it has been for centuries.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to read a couple of some really cool comments and questions. First one is a super chat from Bernadette, who says, hi, TJ and Taj. Hi, Taj and TJ. I'm an autism mom. My daughter turned 10 yesterday. She experienced trauma due to abusive dad. I have full custody, finding counselors for her because not many counselors deal with autism kids. That's really sad, by the way, but not many counselors deal with, is it a special type of learning, or is it because they don't want to deal with it? Or why do we think, Amelia, why not many, finding counselors is more challenging for autism kids?
Well, first of all, happy birthday. Your baby is beautiful. I see her in that picture. Happy birthday to her. I think, first of all, there's just a shortage of counselors everywhere. We've all dealt with a group trauma. So finding counselors for children especially is hard right now. But also, I think a lot of counselors, when you think about it, we're not teaching people about autism in professions like that, right? So a counselor who may be really, really good at family therapy or, whatever that is, they just may not feel confident that they can meet the needs of a child with autism. So I think a lot of times it's not just presenting, hey, I have a child with autism who needs therapy. It's, hey, this is my child, Amelia. She's been through a lot. She also has autism. Because it's an also thing. It's not the one and only core issue. That person doesn't have to have a master's in autism to help somebody with their mental health. They just have to know that that person is capable of receiving the help that they're giving. And they are. So ask again.
That's a great response. And thank you so much, Bernadette, for the super chat, the question or the comment, which led to a question, and happy birthday to your baby. Patricia also says, hello, Amelia. My best friend's daughter has autism and she wasn't diagnosed till 4 and is nonverbal herself. She's so great and I have always been blessed. Her mom has let me be part of her life. She is now almost 10 years old. That's so beautiful.
I love stories like that.
It's wonderful. Michelle says autism meltdowns is not from a lack of discipline. They are overstimulated and can't process all the info. I've been shunned and stared at and criticized for a long time, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I actually want to, if that's okay with you, Amelia, talk about an autism meltdown, or is it, would you say this is the proper, well, I don't want to say proper term, but is this the term to use? And then also, first I'll start with that. Is this the right term? Is there a specific term you like to use more to reference?
Again, I think it's a spectrum. What's a meltdown to one person might be, a temper tantrum to another. There are so many verbiage we could add to these types of behaviors. I think it depends on what fits the situation. But I know that is really common, those sensory issues for people with autism. When you think about it, I hate fluorescent lights. I don't like them. Well, now imagine if I was autistic and those lights actually felt like razor blades cutting my skin. You know, that's how some of this environmental stuff really does feel for people with autism. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not occurring. So, you know, my degree in applied behavior analysis, you totally got it right. You guys are good. It shows us that, you know, every behavior has a function. Every behavior has communication. Anybody who tells you they did something for no reason is completely wrong. And I've spent a lot of money on a master's degree to prove that they are wrong. So it's also thinking about what is causing these behaviors. It's not about the behavior itself. It's not about the meltdown and what it looks like. It's about what caused that behavior and what is that person trying to tell you? And how can I help?
Any advice for a parent who may have to go through the first or second or third time of with a meltdown or an outburst? Anything you would suggest to them? And then I'm also going to ask you, what would you suggest to someone in public who's witnessing that may want to help?
So the first thing I'm going to say is be patient. You have to be patient. You know, even with my master's degree, you know, and every tool in the bag, there were sometimes I just couldn't help Alex. There were just times where he just couldn't contain what was going on inside of his body, and it came out in physical ways. So I think it's about being patient. It's about being patient with the person, but also being patient with yourself. That is a really hard situation to be in. Nobody is expecting you to have these there is no perfect reaction in that situation. There's just not. And I mean, anybody who's ever had, and I'm not trying to make a condescending analogy, but you know, you've had a toddler who throws a temper tantrum and you're like, weren't you just smiling a minute ago? You know, what do I do? What do I do? That's a similar situation in that you have to be patient, right? You have to just wait and see what it is that's going to work, that's going to help. But keep trying. Keep trying. Just because, you know, rubbing somebody on the back doesn't help the first time, that doesn't mean it's not going to help in 4 minutes, right? So just keep trying. And I think if you're out in public and you see these things happen, the first step is don't stop and stare. That is the worst feeling in the entire world. I remember one time I was in Walmart with Alex and he had one of these meltdowns. He just lost it. He was hungry. There were bags of chips on the belt. He wasn't having it. And it ended up with me having to almost carry him out of the store. And, you know, I'm bleeding because he's scratching and there's my hair on the floor. And I get to the car and I notice that the diamond in my engagement ring broke off. And I go back in the store, and now all of a sudden, everybody who was staring at us during this whole interaction, now all of a sudden, everybody wants to help and tell me how blessed I am and how lucky I am and how beautiful he is. I didn't find my diamond. I didn't find any gold advice that helped me through my next temper tantrum. I left feeling more devastated that those people didn't help in the moment than anything that had occurred. If one of those people in that moment had said, hey, we're here, instead of waiting until my child was gone, that would have made all the difference.
It's very, very powerful and profound. Okay, I have more stuff. Todd, did you have something?
No, I mean, it's really, I mean, you guys are gonna laugh, but like you're like 2 minutes ahead in terms of me asking questions. You answer it right before I get to say my question in that way. But yeah, because I was just gonna say, I can't imagine what that feels like to be stared upon in that way at a moment when you just need help, and the stares must have felt like daggers in a way, and I would implore anyone, the public, I think, you know, it's like that's when empathy needs to be there in that way, and so but you answered it, so I didn't know what else to say in that way. But I can't imagine that, like in that it's like when you need help and all you're getting is stares, and that
I think some people, I think some people just don't know how to help, or if it's okay to help. And you know, because of Amelia, I know that answer.
Yeah,
but I think for many people, they don't know that answer. They don't know how to help. They don't know if they're just going to be in the way. But like I said, from hearing
But
from Millie, I
ask.
just
Always ask. The worst thing somebody's going to tell you is no, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, that is the worst thing that could possibly happen. I remember my middle son, Cameron, because I mean, the stairs are really, I mean, really, and that's another thing. Think about that when you're around your children too, right? It's not just teaching children not to say things in front of other people, but it's also about body language, right? So those stares, the pointing, the moving away, we used to deal with that constantly. And it got to the point where my middle son, Cameron, I think he was 3. And people would stare and he would look and he goes, he has autism. What's wrong with you?
oh, wow.
And people would be like, you know, shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me was thinking, you weren't shocked by your own behavior, but you were shocked by his.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a real wake up call. And this just came out of nowhere one day where he was like, hey, what's up with you? You know, my brother has a condition. What's your excuse? But he was right. He was completely right. And that was another way that we as a family spread autism awareness, was from that defensive place of him feeling like he had to protect his brother. And I would hope that, you know, after being put in your place by a 3-year-old, you know, I would hope that you would go and maybe Google something or maybe approach it differently the next time.
That's true. That is true. Okay, so we have a couple of great comments to highlight. Ebony says, I have a 2-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old daughter. Both of them are autistic, and I love them both so much. Also, I am their homeschool teacher. Much love to you all.
And love to you. Way to go. How lucky are your daughters?
Sweet. And then Bernadette says, thank you, Amelia. We finally got a referral from Serenity's pediatrician for trauma counseling. We have an appointment next week, but finding counseling has been a challenge. And then Bernadette also says, I deal with the meltdowns, and Serenity has had a rough year at school. She is in both general and special classroom settings. She's been bullied and has been fighting back. I deal with others judging. And I don't know if you wanted to comment on this, Amelia, but the one thing I will say is just a reminder for anyone out there to, even if you don't see any autistic signs or whatever that you think, it's always important to be nice to each other and to not, we don't know what each other are going through. So please, and I have faith that everyone who's watching or listening does this, but please always be respectful and loving to others. It's so important.
And obviously teach your kids that too.
And obviously teach your kids
that's
that.
the next generation that goes with it.
Sanja says, I enjoy working with my autistic students. They have a beautiful spirit. And then Angie says, I've always heard of autism, but never knew the depth of what autism was until I watched these shows. So these shows not only help with grief and loss, but it teaches us about multiple things. I love that. And then Michelle says, I love you, Amelia. Bravo. Thanks, TJ and Tyler, so much for doing the show. God bless you both. So, so much amazing love from the community. And first of all, thank you so much. It's been very active on the comments. And I think that speaks a lot. It says that a lot of people either are interested or are touched by you being here and us talking about this topic. Yours truly, April, has a super chat who says, what do you say to a mother who raised an autistic child who's now 23, never saw to them getting therapy, and now they can't talk? And also, this is in honor of my aunt who passed on Sunday. Tragedy has hit us twice in 2 weeks. So first off, sending you love and condolences, April, to you and your family.
Yes.
As far as autism and getting therapy, I guess I'll let Amelia discuss that because I don't have much of a response that could be of help, I don't think. So, Amelia, what would you say to the first part of this comment?
I think, you know, that saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks is completely untrue. We all grow and learn every day. There is no time limit on learning. So 23 with no verbal language, okay. So there's no verbal language. You know what else is great? There are so many other ways of communicating. So if somebody can't speak verbally, maybe we can help them learn how to communicate using technology, right? You can get an app on an iPad that can speak for you. Or maybe we can teach them sign language, or maybe we can teach them gestures. There are so many ways to communicate. I mean, think about all of the communication you get without ever speaking a word. So I think, for all of these things, when I was working on my degree, we had an 18-year-old that we toilet trained. I mean, there is no such thing as learning ever stopping. The only time learning stops is when hope dies. So as long as you still have that hope, there is always opportunity.
That's a great answer. I told you your answer would be a lot better than mine, Amelia. So thank you for that answer. Carrie says, I love your spirit, Amelia. I don't have much experience with autism, but I have cerebral palsy and always wish the world embraced diversity more. And Cruz says, we love you, MJ fans. This was a question for MJ fans. So we'll let MJ fan answer that. Now,
good job for saying cerebral palsy. A lot of people say cerebral palsy, and that is not correct. It is cerebral palsy. So thank you so much for doing that. That is part of diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, well, I was actually confident with that, which I'm very happy with. And I can't take the credit. I think hopefully our society is becoming more understanding of everyone and what everyone is going through. So I'm hoping that was a subconscious type of thing that most people would have said it the proper way. So it's good to hear that I said it right, though. Okay, so we're going to wrap up soon. There's a couple of other comments I want to highlight. And I guess I'll do this first because I was thinking, should we do this first or should we give you your time to say what you want? But I guess I'll say this. This is from Denise, who says, we lost Taj for a second. She says, I remember you saying that Alex gave the best kisses. He truly was a wonderful boy and lived life. And I wanted to share this with you, Amelia, because just to show you that your story is impacting and is being heard and digested by many out there. And Denise, I thank you for commenting that and typing that in there for Amelia to see, because it can't be easy to come on here and just tell your story, or maybe it is, but it's got to be some type of challenging. And I think it's important to let you know, Amelia, that you are impacting so many people out there. So thank you. Now, with that all said, you know what? We'll go here. Just give you some time, Amelia, because I know that could have been challenging. But Sandra wants to know, without using Google, what are some symptoms to look for in someone with autism?
So I highly recommend Googling it as well. This is one of those things where, again, there are common symptoms, but it doesn't look the same in everybody. So, diagnostic criteria for autism are having some language and communication delays, having some social impairments, we would call them, some of those stereotypical behaviors that we associate with autism. So things like lack of eye contact, engaging in stereotypical behaviors, so flapping your hands or people who rock back and forth. A lot of those classic autism behaviors are symptoms that would clue you in that somebody may be looking at an autism diagnosis. But it's also things like, with my son, he just didn't relate to other people. Alex, as a really small baby, people would come over and he just didn't respond to them. Not responding to their name, not using words. And these are very commonly used for small children. We often look at diagnosis at a young age. So this will look different in an adult or an older child. But looking at those developmental milestones, looking at a child's development will really clue you into something being amiss.
Well said. We lost Taj, but he is slowly coming back. We'll just let those who are watching live or rewatching see if he comes back. We'll continue on. There he is.
He's back.
He's back.
Is he there?
What's that?
Okay.
Yeah,
my whole internet went down, so I'm using cellular. So
it's not that great quality either, Taj. So I'm sorry, man.
Okay.
But the commitment is so appreciated.
The commitment is commendable. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know what plan I have. So
Amelia, you've done this show twice before. This is your third time. I thought and still do think you are the first 3 times person who came on 3 times. Maybe I'm wrong. Either way, we love you and love having you on the Power of Love show with our community. This is the time where we always give our guests the final word or the final message. And again, as you know, it could be on anything. It doesn't have to be on autism. It could be on life. It could be on a Netflix show you are watching. It could be on anything you want to talk about. But I'd love for you to leave our community with something. So go ahead, Amelia. If you are ready, we are ready. And just let us, go ahead. Yes. Tell us whatever you want to tell us.
My third time on the show, and I'm still not prepared for this. Well, I'm going to go with my usual theme. I'm going to talk. Last time I came on here, my ending speech was about taking care of yourself and self-care. And this time, I'm going to talk about taking care of each other, because I think, TJ, you said something really important during all of this. And that's, you never know what somebody else is going through. You never know the struggle that somebody else is facing, whether it's your family and friends, or the person in the car next to you, or the lady in the grocery store, whoever it is. You have no idea what's going on in somebody else's life. Even if you see it from the surface, you have no idea what it could possibly feel like to be in somebody else's shoes. So I think what I want to leave everybody with today is give a little patience, give a little extra kindness. If you have to do it because I told you to, or because, that's the way my boy lived his life, then that's okay. But really consciously think about what you can do to be there and be present for others. And that's how we also give back to ourselves. I come on this show, even though it makes me really nervous every time still, man, the stomach ache is still real. But I come on this show because I like to think that in some way this is going to help somebody else. And that makes it all worthwhile. I think if all of us did a little bit more of that every day, we'd all live in a really, really, really rich, lovely, beautiful, colorful world where everybody could be appreciated just for who they are. And that's what I'm in it for. And I hope that's what everybody else is in it for too, because the world could only be more beautiful with more diversity and more kindness.
Wonderfully said.
Yeah.
And that's why I like doing those. By the way, your internet's pretty good now, Taj. But that's why I like letting our guests have the final words. They have a way of just really profoundly hitting it and out of the park. And you did that. And I think your words are very important to be repeated and heard over and over. So thank you so much, Amelia.
Thank you.
Something that I want to highlight more comments, if that's okay. Cruz says, thank you for sharing, Amelia. Very informative. Sarah says, it's always a pleasure to hear you, Amelia. Karen says, Amelia, you are such lovely lady. God bless you. Carla says, thank you for all you do as a special education teacher and speech therapist, have worked with children that were autistic. I learned a lot from the parents and children myself. Janine says, kindness is everything. Alejandra says, I liked your story, Amelia. And then Caleb says, you are such a sweet, very sweet person, Amelia. We love you very much. And then he follows it with, Amelia, you are just a bright light. Keep shining on forever. So there you have it. I think that's the right one to end on. But Amelia, again, on behalf of my eldest brother, Taj Jackson, and our entire foundation, we thank you for being on and being with us today. This is your second home. You're always welcome back, and we love having you back. And not just about autism. If you want to come back and share something else, please feel free to. Plus, we need to make sure you're the fourth before someone's the third, so you have a bit of a pad.
I think I need a plaque or something, right? Like a medal,
something. Either way, just on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you for being on.
Thank you guys for the work that you do. You guys are a mirror that reflects light onto the world, and I am so grateful.
Thank you. Taj, anything else we need to do before we end this episode of the Power of Love Show?
No, I love when you're on. I mean, I learned so much, and it's amazing that even though you've been on 3 times, it feels like they have been kind of different topics in a way, always education in terms of that. And I love that you spent a lot of time talking about how you felt during those times and what we can do publicly to help you in that way. Because TJ, you were right. Like sometimes you don't know. And when you don't know something, it's best to just be on the safe side. And that's the worst thing that could, you're telling us that that's not, that's not helpful in that way. And so I think the more that it gets out, the better it'll be, which is why I love the acceptance word as opposed to awareness.
Tajan, just to piggyback, that was my biggest takeaway, because I always find myself in a situation of I want to help, but I don't know what to say. I don't want to be in the way. And then sometimes I won't do anything. And like Taj said, it was wonderful to hear you say, you can always ask, and hopefully for someone out there who may be going through that kind of mental battle of whether I should step in or ask if any help is needed. Hopefully this show will push you to ask the next time. So until next Wednesday, everyone, please be safe. Amelia, once again, thank you so much for joining us, spreading your knowledge and your story with our community. We will see you guys next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. All right. So take care. God bless you all. And please be safe. Adios, everyone.